Hey everybody, welcome back to the One Step Better podcast. Glad that you could join us today. With me, of course, is Matt Patrick. Matt, how you doing?
Doing great, man. How are you today?
Doing well, doing real well. You having a good week so far?
Yeah, man. Florida State 2-0. Let's go.
That's right. It was a rough football week.
It's good if you're not a Bama fan.
Yeah, A&M got smoked by Miami and
It's all about the U.
was not happy. This is the One Step Better podcast. Helping small businesses make wins each and every week. All right, Matt, so growing up, what was a TV show or a movie that you watched a lot as a kid?
I go back a little past where you were, I guess.
Very much so. Far past where I am.
I like the Super Friends, which was, Superman, and it was Aquaman and the Wonder Twin powers. That
The
was
DC comics.
Yeah, it was really cool. And then He-Man was huge with my kid when I was a kid.
For me, I watched a lot of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh, yeah.
That was my go-to cartoon as a kid. Other than that, like the TGIF shows, I think it was Full House and Family Matters. And,
You're definitely younger than me.
there was a couple of them, but it was like every Friday night. Was it Friday or Thursday? It was one of the nights of the week. If it was TGIF, it was probably Friday.
Yeah, it was.
But they had like a block of shows that every week came on.
Urkel.
Yeah. And that was, I remember we would always order pizza and we would watch that block of shows.
Thursday night NBC was ours. So it was Cosby, Family Ties, Cheers, and then Night Court. That was the four. I was probably in like 12 years old at that point. I like Cheers a lot. Cheers is a great show. And I transitioned right to the next round of Thursday shows. In college, it was Friends and that group of shows. Yeah. So Frasier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So today we're going to continue a conversation we've had for a few weeks now about mistakes that small businesses can make. And today we're going to talk about all things compensation. So whether it's a bonus, comp plan, benefits package, ways in which I give my employees dollars, and some of the mistakes tied around that. Matt, when you start to think about that topic, what are a couple of the high-level things that pop in your mind?
Yeah, right away, it's compensation. I think it's a topic that it is a primary driver a lot of times for people when they hire. Or when people are just deciding a new job. I don't know if the employees do a great job of looking at all things that go into comp. Some people look at salary, some people look at the benefits. It really comes down to their own needs. My goal is to motivate with the idea that we all want to share in winning. And so I like trying to tie accountability of their compensation to their ability to win and help us win. And so I usually start with that mindset. I will say that I've made a lot of these mistakes we're going to talk about today. It's unfortunately, I've put bonuses in place that really didn't drive the behavior I wanted, or I've added benefits before that nobody really valued except for me. And so it wasn't a factor that they really, they cared about, but yet I thought it was really important for them to have it. And it just didn't make financial sense eventually for us to keep doing it if they weren't really weighing it into the equation of what they were getting paid. So, my big thing always with comp benefits is I feel like it has to be something tied to something you can control. I like that the more you can control your comp, the better.
That's easy to do in some positions where, I'm going to pay you, sales is always the easy one. If you close a deal, you're going to get a commission. It's a little bit harder to do. I can't pay my front desk person, $10 every time they pick up the phone, or whatever it is. There's always some component of salary or hourly rate there. But in a perfect world, every position would have comp tied to performance to some level. I want to motivate the behaviors that I'm trying to replicate. The more you do good behaviors, the more comp you should get, and the more you do bad behaviors, it's not going to move the needle. So don't do the bad things.
Yeah, I want you to, I always go back to when I was working at, the firm previously. I was billing at an exorbitant hourly rate, but I was a salaried employee. If I had to take on more work, which is great, I didn't necessarily feel like I was going to get more money for that. As an entrepreneurial spirit like I am, I don't love that.
Yeah.
Now, I get it. I totally get it. Some roles aren't that way. I do feel like tying it to the right behaviors of the intended goal is where I really want to start with my comp models, though.
I think it's also important to explain to employees what all goes into that.
Yeah.
Because it is, like you said, some people, if I value what my paycheck is going to be on Friday, and so the only thing I care about is what is my net pay going to be on Friday. And that's a little bit different than somebody who maybe is thinking a bit more longer term, or, is there any retirement plan options, or I have a family now and I need insurance, or whatever it may be. It's a little bit of a different way to look at a paycheck, but you have to help your employees navigate through those waters so that it is clear to them. Because a lot of times, we may say we're going to pay X dollars. It's $10,000 a year, $100,000 a year, whatever it is. And that doesn't always come across to the employee from the true benefit, or even what am I doing as the employee to actually make that money? Because if we're paying somebody $1 million a year and they're only producing $1,000 a day, or $1,000 a year, then
why
that's
are we
not
doing
sustainable.
That? Right.
And so I like being able to connect all of the dots, both from the employer side, but also from the employee side. That way they understand what's happening, what's going into this, because it does give them a little bit greater sense of control maybe, but also just empathy, understanding of how we're getting to that number.
So I see, obviously you're in the payroll side, so you're seeing all kinds of different numbers that come up from a bonuses standpoint. I'm assuming you're not always involved in what makes up the calculation, but you also sometimes do have those conversations. I'm assuming, I know we'd have those conversations on the accounting side, which is what's your motivation in this? So, one of the things that always comes up is, how often should I be bonusing, or what are some things I should be thinking about when I create a bonus? What kind of things have you seen on your end?
I start with, if you're really thinking about moving behavior or motivating behavior or even rewarding behavior, you need to look at this much more broad and comprehensive than cash.
Yeah.
Cash is not going to sustain a different behavior from your employees. It makes a one-time splash. There's even research out there. I forget the exact numbers, but I know that SHRM did a lot of studies on this. And it was something, don't quote me on this, but it was like a cash bonus is going to have a sustainable effect for about 6 days. And then it's, what's next? And so if you're truly trying to motivate or change behavior based on cash bonuses, you probably are going to be missing the mark, because they just don't do that. I would start the question of, what am I trying to get out of my team, and how do I want to reward them for those efforts beyond just here's a paycheck.
Yep.
I have to create a place that is people can trust each other. We can have healthy conflict and talk to each other well, and we're all moving in the same direction to accomplish a goal. I want to try to connect their job to the bigger purpose of what we're trying to do as a company. Like all the culture building things, I'm going to start there. But let's pretend for a second that we have those things figured out. And you do have a bonus program in place, and maybe it's a bit of a repeatable one. You need to pay that out as often as you need to actually connect the work they're doing with the dollars that's being associated with it. It is not helpful to put a bonus structure in place that says, all right, you did X work in January, so I'm going to pay you a bonus in November. By the time that check comes in November, they're going to have no idea all the extra effort or the work or the whatever it is that went into getting or earning those dollars. So there's a trade-off between it's too frequent where it becomes an administrative cumbersome burden, but then not frequent enough to where I don't associate behavior with dollars.
Yeah, I mean, we've made that mistake. We've actually just recently switched that one, actually. So our accounting managers are on what we call production pay, which is they get the greater of their salary or their production percentage of work done. We were paying that annually. And like you said, though, they're working at tax season, working extra hours, everything goes into it. They weren't really tracking it on their end, and therefore their motivation would obviously wane because they're not looking at it regularly. It didn't really change their behavior, what we were intending for. We've switched that to quarterly now, and I find that it's a reoccurring enough now that they can see the direct impact on it. Our staff have been paid on that monthly, and that's always been a motivator, and you can see it in that motivation. I see this a lot with restaurants. This is something that comes up a lot. That they're going to create a quarterly bonus for their managers based on a number of factors. I don't know how often those factors are motivators that they feel like they can control. Like, hey, our sales were up. Okay, what did the manager do to increase sales? That's upselling. That's whatever. But there's some things in there they really just don't control. Maybe it's on reviews or whatever. So that's something that I want to look at harder on what is controllable by the employee that would improve the behaviors we want to see. My dad worked in retail for a long time, and at Home Depot, he had, his was same store sales, or his labor costs as percentage of sales, or it would be number of gift cards sold, or number of credit card offers sold, or his inventory management numbers would have to be below certain levels to qualify for bonuses. And his bonuses were significant, but they were multi-tiered, and it was based off the factors. Those are all the things that would drive profitability of that store. And then Home Depot, who he was working for at the time, would really do a good job, I think, of tying those things together. The manager can control all 5 of those things. And so I thought that was really interesting as we started doing that here is, what are the things that our people need to be doing to ensure that we have the best quality product we can have and get to the work in the hands of our clients at the fastest. And just making sure that we understand what the motivators are in that. And it's not just, we could worry about getting stuff out the door at the expense of quality. You could work on quality, but if it was quality only and not speed out the door, then everything looks great, but it never gets to the hands of the customer. If it's strictly based on billings, that doesn't necessarily mean it's the best thing for the client necessarily. If it's not something they need, we're not going to oversell them with something they don't need. So making sure you're tying all those things together.
I think you bring up a good point. There's always, to any bonus program, there's unintended consequences that come out of those that you, as much as you can, need to try to plan for and think about. You're probably going to miss some. There's probably going to be things that pop up that just, I never thought about that. And that's perfectly fine. But you do need to consider some of those unintended consequences because, like you said, if we're bonusing based on billing, well, hey, you know what? I'm going to call every one of my clients for a 15-minute phone call so I can bill them whatever my rate is.
Yep.
And our clients are like, why are you calling me? I don't, I'm getting my billings up. My billings up.
Or even with production, if they were smart, they would, slow down one month and increase the next. They get their guaranteed money 1 month and they have a big bonus the next month. And so we have factors for that stuff. This stuff. I think about some of the bonuses we've had in place. We had one for a while that was a team bonus built around percentage of work that went out the door. Well, it was based on count, not dollars.
The goal was we need to get, as a team, a set of books delivered to a client as quick as we can.
That's our goal. And unfortunately, though, when we did it that way based on count, we quickly realized that they were doing the smallest, easiest accounts first, and those would count the same as a big account. And except for, that's great, our biggest clients were getting done last, and our smallest clients were getting done first. And that's not the goal there, in that our biggest clients that have the most stuff and the most complex, they probably have a more need to see those financials faster than the small things that really aren't impactful. Mm-hmm. And it was a detriment. The bonus was a detriment to the goal. And we didn't realize it till there was a awakening. This is stupid. What are we doing this way for? And so we switched it. Yeah. We also had a team bonus, and we also had a personal bonus.
Yeah, and those were in conflict with each other.
They were. Personal bonus was all about me. If I got my stuff done, I'd get a big bonus. And that bonus was significantly more than the team bonus. But the reality of it is we want all the work to get done, not just one side of clients, but also we want that person to feel like they're working as part of a team, not just for their own stuff. So they weren't very helpful for others, or they were not quick to pick up and help others because they had to get their own stuff done first. And that just defeated our purpose. This is something we did 10 years ago. And that was something that we just didn't realize the unintended consequences, so we got into it.
You rolled that out. That was around for a long time.
Yep.
And then you took it away.
I did.
How did that go? With the, hey, here's a way that you could earn money, and now it's not a way that you could earn money anymore. How did that play with the team?
I'm sure it wasn't great. I had to do some compensation adjustments to fix it. We had a couple of employees that were getting it every month. We also implemented profit sharing at the same time, so it kind of offset those numbers. But I also put more dollars towards the team bonus to make it where it was no loss of dollars that they could have earned. So it wasn't
necessarily a change of comp. It was a change of how you get to that comp.
Correct. That was my goal.
Yeah.
And I had to think about that. It took me a long time to figure out how I was going to pull that plug. What happened was we realized that only a couple people ever were going to hit it. And the other people that weren't going to hit it were never going to hit it because they didn't have the book or the ability to manage the work or whatever. So by switching it, making it team focused, everybody would have ability to get the same pool again, but also get us to our real result that we were trying to, the intentions we were trying to have, which was we want all the work to get out on time to the right clients as fast as possible. And it also, we wanted a pro team. So everything was about how does a team get done, not just one individual.
Got questions about how to run your business better? Join Works and Patrick Accounting for Office Hours. Every month on Thursday, several of our staff host open discussion Zoom meetings to share tips on business best practices, as well as answer any questions you have about their topic. We talk about QuickBooks tips and tricks, how to understand your insurance policies, employee onboarding, and the list goes on and on and on. Don't miss your opportunity to engage in the conversation and come away with some business tips. Register today at works.com/office hours. That's WHIRKS.com/office hours. Can't wait to see you there. What do you think is too long to go between the time that I earn the cash and the time that it gets paid out? Like you mentioned, we were doing things a year back.
A year is definitely too long. I mean, I think a year could be okay if it was something you guys watched. If let's say it was on the profitability of the firm or whatever, and if we hit a sales goal is a good one. Hey, we have a sales quota for the year. If we hit quota, we'll get an extra percentage. Here's how we are against quota. We're on track, we're off track. If you're monitoring that, fine, and it's significant enough that they care about it. If it's something that I want to reward behavior pretty quickly, I think monthly, quarterly, I wouldn't want to go more than that probably too often.
Yeah. It gets tough. I mean, you also have to track it for a longer time too, which is less fun.
It is. Also there's ebb and flows of there's good months and bad months. So is it a rolling average of, there's all kinds of stuff. Because hey, we have a profits bonus on monthly. We lost a lot of money one month, lost a lot of money the second month, and we made a little bit of money the third month. I paid a bonus because we made a little bit of money. But if you look at the whole stream thing, we still lost money. So that's not a great
If you're a super seasonal business, that could kill you.
That could suck. Yeah, hey, we're paying all these bonuses out for the 3 months we make a profit. And the 9 months we're losing our butts, then that probably doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, hey, Mr. Employee, can you give me that bonus part back?
Yeah, and so one of the things that came up for me when I think about bonuses, actually I talked to Matt Banker at Banker Creative about this a little bit, just how we would tie comp for marketing roles, and he made a good point. The first level is really, it's making sure that they are getting compensated for the work or the task maybe they're being asked to do. I think that makes a lot of sense. That's creating the behaviors, and that may not be a very small extra comp, or just it could, in our world, it could be a spin at the wheel. It could be whatever, that they were doing the task they want to do. And then the next wave is, okay, how does it affect my team? And then how does it affect the business as a whole? So maybe, second tier may be, hey, I'm seeing, it could be on our world, it could be comments, likes, reactions to our content, if it's marketing, for instance. If we get to these percentages or these views or whatever as a team, then there's a bonus there. That's not necessarily my task of me posting stuff, but it's the result of that we're trying to get. And the third one would be, hey, how do we attach the marketing efforts to either appointments set or leads, opportunities we had, or closed sales. So you're doing that in tier effect. So with the idea of going, I want to change your behavior first with the intent of the results we want to have, so that we get the results we want to have. And so I thought that was pretty interesting when you mentioned that to me. I'm like, that's interesting. You can think about that in a lot of roles.
Is that like the idea of creating, hey, we're going to bonus out these 3 things, or is it maybe like a cumulative score on these 3 things, you get a bonus, or like what does that look like?
You could do it a couple ways. I think maybe these are the tasks that if you do these tasks, you're eligible for, I'm using a sample version, 25% of your bonus. If you do this task, you're eligible for another 25%. Let's say we got this reaction of bonus. Well, that's another 25% of your bonus. But if we get the results we really want to have, which is the goal of getting more closes, 50% of your bonus is eligible if we hit these numbers. And that gives them a chance to have the drivers that lead to the results you want to have. They still get some skin in the game for those drivers. But that's very interesting for me to think through when I think about a bonus for a team that may have some attribution troubles, or likewise, it is about getting in the habit of, this is the content volume we want to produce. On payroll, it could be, hey, we need to get, maybe it's on onboarding, for instance. We want every accounting onboarding done within 30 days. Everything that gets done within 30 days is eligible for a bonus. If all of them get done for a quarter within 30 days, there's an extra bonus. So you can't give up on one for all.
It's all trying to figure out what is going to make my team tick.
Yeah, and also, what is the goal we really want to have? Well, we want to be able to onboard more volume of clients in a faster way, so we can get them in the flow of things faster. We want to have this many people attend events or whatever. What's the motivation of the result we're trying to intend with the bonus? Not just a bonus for bonus sake. Like, hey, thank you, it's Christmas, here's your Christmas bonus. I'm not a believer in Christmas or holiday bonuses. I like gifts at Christmas. I want to give gifts at Christmas, but I want your work to be defined by the efforts that you're doing to get the results we want as a group.
You think Christmas bonuses are just the, hey, you made it another year, here's a check?
Yep.
Gotcha.
That also is very hard for me to determine what an appropriate Christmas bonus is. That's honestly just the truth. It's you make $100,000 and you've been here 2 weeks and you've been here 10 years and you make $50,000. What's the right of bonus to give each of those people? Is it based on the work they did? Is it based on their value to the organization? Is it based on their tenure?
Yeah.
It's a random number.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that doesn't necessarily make me feel like good about giving them a bonus for something just because they make more money or just because they've been here 10 years. I like to give gifts. I'll give a gift.
I don't like the expectation that comes with like
holiday,
annual or recurring bonuses, because now there's an expectation that comes with that dollar that is not, I'm not trying, it's no longer a gift.
Correct.
And I don't like that part of it.
I don't want to bonus you because you did the stuff that you should have done as part of your role anyway with the salary I'm paying you. I want to be a motivator to improve what you're doing.
Yeah.
Not just, hey, I was a sales leader, I get a percentage of every sale no matter what, we sell one or we sell 1,000,000. Well, that's great and all, but that's really your job to make sure the sales team is selling. I shouldn't have to motivate you with additional comp to make that happen. I should be motivating with you. How do we get to every salesperson's on quota? How do we get over our quota? How do we get a systematized approach to doing all the things we want to do? And the overall factor is really what I'm trying to find.
But I think that there's a goal attached to those things. And that's
Correct.
true for sales or ops or every other position. It's, hey, you know what? We hear a lot of organizations refer to that as lift or growth, right? You know, last year we were at X. This year you're going to get bonused off of wherever we're at minus X. So like you're not getting credit for the previous stuff. You're going to get credit for what you did over the course of this past year. And there's a lot of different ways that you could structure that. But at the end of the day, it's all about trying to incentivize the behavior that we're looking to replicate and repeat.
So, Mike, as small business owners, what I see a lot of our owners doing, they feel some loyalty to give a bonus because of, I'll say, the subjective factors, that they're working hard or whatever. You know, what advantages should a small business have with regards to bonuses and comp when it comes to, I'll say, you know, not trying to make them subjective?
I don't think that subjective bonuses are necessarily a bad thing. I think you have to be very careful about the language that you use around that. You know, if I was going to give somebody on my team 100, hey, you know what, I think you're doing a great job. I'm really just proud of you. And overall, you know, not specific, I'm just overall proud of you. You've been doing a good job. Here's $100, or maybe here's a gift card to go out to eat with your spouse or something like that. I think that's perfectly fine to do. Those would be discretionary.
Yeah.
And it's important that you use that term discretionary. It's at my discretion. I'm giving you money because there are some compliance things that can come into place for bonuses. Whenever you say that dollar amount is tied to something they're doing, it's now a non-discretionary bonus, which can affect overtime things. And so, like, you just have to be careful about the way
you just got nerded out a little bit there. So obviously, discretionary, non-discretionary bonuses, for people who aren't aware, hourly employee.
If I'm an hourly employee, let's say I make $10 an hour and I work 50 hours a week, I'm entitled to 40 hours at $10 an hour and 10 hours at $15 an hour. That's, you know, pretty straight, normal overtime, you know, on the federal system. If I also pay you $100 because you produced X number of widgets, or, you know, whatever production-based pay, your overtime rate is no longer $15 an hour. I have to consider my bonus payment to you as regular compensation. So my overtime rate increases.
$100 divided by 40, $2 and change.
Yeah, I'm not doing that math here, right? You know, live.
Yeah, but that's what you're doing,
it's
right?
Essentially 50 hours times 10 is 500 plus my $100 bonus is 600. So it's $600 divided by 40 hours to get my regular rate.
$15 an hour.
Divided by 50 hours to get my regular rate, which is, you know, whatever the math is there. And then I have to pay a premium or premium rate.
I have to pay time and a half on the bonus, basically, as well.
Correct.
And on all the other wages, because my overall rate became that way.
Correct, because my overall.
And I will tell you, that's not probably done a lot of the times.
It's not done a lot of times. Whenever it is one of the things that we do see whenever the DOL comes in and you do have something in place there, it will become an issue. Now, that's beyond the scope of this particular podcast. The big thing to remember there is whenever you are paying a production-based pay, you have to consider overtime for your hourly workers in that period of time. Now, Again, doesn't mean that you shouldn't. Doesn't mean that it's a bad idea. It's just something to consider. It's one of those unintended consequences of a bonus. We see the same thing happen, and for those companies that do Christmas bonuses or holiday-based bonuses, it's a frequent conversation. Whenever you say, "Hey, Mike, I need to pay out my employees a bonus," here it is. We have a series of about 5 questions that we're going to ask you, because we want to be very clear on those unintended consequences. Mm-hmm. How do you want it taxed? When do you want it paid? Are you doing this to a check at a Christmas party, or do you want us to pay it via direct deposit? There's a series of things that you have to think through that are more administrative by nature, but it does impact how that is delivered and treated from your employee's perspective. I remember a conversation that we had. This was a long time ago, but it was, hey, I'm paying out. It was like $1,000 Christmas bonus for one of our clients, and they ran that payroll. And they called, was like, my employees got like $400. Everything else went to
taxes.
Yeah. And it was because those employees had overrides in all of their withholding stuff to elevate their withholding amount. So it's like completely different outcome that employer expected.
I wanted them to get $1,000.
I wanted to get $1,000. I wanted them to feel that impact, and it turned out to be like just falling flat.
Yep. I've been there.
Those are the things that you don't like. When you're excited, when you're an employer, you're a leader, you're coming into the room, I'm motivating my team. Hey, you know what? Well done. Good job. Here's here's some cash or whatever it is. And the reception of that is, wah, wah, wah. That is defeating.
This is Christmas vacation, right? He's expecting this bonus, and he ends up getting a coupon for a ham. And you're like, I'm going to go burn that guy's house down. Actually, I think they kidnapped him first.
Right, they did.
Not him, his uncle or cousin.
But yeah, that's
exactly
what happens. And there's no employer, there's no leader that wants that to happen to their team. And it's just that's paying attention to some of the
probably why I don't like Christmas bonuses, because I don't want it to ever feel that way.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
or you don't want that next year. It's like, you know what? Maybe we weren't as profitable.
If we have 30
or whatever
employees
it is.
and I just said I'm going to do $500 a piece, I'm spending $15,000, and you're like, I sent $15,000 out, and you're like, you only gave me $500?
Yeah.
Or, oh my God, you gave me $500. Whatever it is, it's like, I don't know what the rule is.
Yeah.
So
and if it's a rough year or a pandemic happens and things are shut down, it's like, here's your ham gift card. It's tough.
I don't have $15,000 right now to give you as a bonus, even though I would love to. I just don't have it.
Yeah.
Which is also December is a terrible time cash flow wise for us. So it is. So what other rewards or comp or things besides a bonus should small businesses be thinking about?
I love competitions. I want to try to find something to turn into a game that has a prize at the end. That prize could be a TV. It could be a gift card. It could be just a shoe that is has a story behind it of how this is old Eddie's shoe that he lost his shoe,
a glove
walking
or a belt
to a
or something
client. Just like the object doesn't matter. It's the camaraderie and the gamemanship of the process. And so, turn something into a competition. Who can make the most dials today? Who can get the most positive Google reviews today? Who can get out the most sets of books today in our world, whatever that is. Make it a competition. That could be spontaneous. It's not something that has to be super planned or super scheduled. We see that you've done this. I've seen you do this oftentimes, where you'll walk into the sales team.
$300.
Put cash on the board. Hey, the first person to get to a no gets this $100 or whatever it is. Yeah. And it's just a spontaneous, and it's a way to make the normal routine rhythm of work exciting.
I like games. When you mentioned, I'm like, we haven't had a good game. Maybe we should start a new game again. But spiffs are great. And so I think about when I waited tables, it was who can sell the most desserts tonight, or who can sell the most appetizers, or who can sell the most of this cocktail, or number of bottles of wine, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
That motivates them to get the results you want, which is, hey, we can get our average ticket price up by $10 for every dessert we sell. That's a good thing.
I remember when I worked at Sears.
Yeah.
I was 20 years old, 19 years old. I worked there because I liked a girl that worked there. That's the extent to why I even had the job.
I thought you like Kenmore, Mike.
Do I? Kenmore? Yeah, I was a big Craftsman fan. Yeah. I worked in the children's department at Sears, in the same department as the girl that I liked. And their big spiff, or what they tried to get us to do, is they tried to get us to sell credit card applications.
Yep.
And for every credit card we got somebody to apply for and actually got approved for, we got like $2, $3, $4, whatever it is. It was nothing. And it was, you get paid at some point in the future. I had no idea how the rules worked. And that's probably not because Sears was unclear. It was because I was a goofy boy.
Yeah.
But I do very clearly remember the game that my department made it.
Yeah.
And it was, hey, I've already sold 3. Where are you at?
Yeah.
And it wasn't about the $4 that we got for
I want
every
to
app.
win. I want to win.
I want to beat you.
Yep.
And those things, especially if you have a competitive group, those things matter greatly.
Yeah, I mean, we have silly things like we have our belted glove, for the production, or we have our kickback award, or we have our spear in the sales department and all that fun stuff. I think those things are fun. I think that they can lose a little luster over time. They can get a little monotonous, I think. But spiffs are fun because you get to create a new little game, and that people like friendly competition.
The spontaneity of it matters.
Yep.
It matters greatly. And I think if, even if you catch wind of, hey, this is a game that I hear people in my organization are playing, or, maybe it's not something that's formalized or organized by the company, but if you just hear word of it and go in someday and say, hey, you know what, whoever wins the next whatever, here's a reward. To me, though, that has nothing to do with bonuses. It has nothing to do with compensation. It's about building a culture.
Yep.
It's about building a team that is highly tuned into each other, that's, achieving goals. And that's how your dollars can actually increase and improve morale.
So circling back a little bit on the idea of mistakes, one of the things I think a lot of small businesses do are the fact that they haven't necessarily thought through the goal or the intentions they want and the behavior they want for their employees to have when they are determining a bonus structure. They either feel like they have to do it, or they did it because they've always done it, or whatever it is. I think the more you think through the motivation you want to have and the objections you're trying to obtain by doing the bonus, the better they're going to be served by making sure that they are getting the consequences that they were wanting to have. It is always a challenge. It's hard to change it once you do it. Start small, don't overcommit. Be clear that it could change. Here's what we're trying to get to, but we may not get it right the first time. I think the more you do that, the more you have the chance for success for it actually getting the consequences you want.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And we could wrap up on that. I'll just say that if there is a way to achieve that behavior without bonusing it or adding comp to it, go that route first.
Yeah.
Go that route first, because there's going to be a little bit more creative. It's probably going to mean a little bit more to your team. It's going to be harder. Throwing dollars at something is a bad answer.
Yep.
And so, try to figure that out. So thanks for joining us, everybody. Really appreciate you tuning in to listen. Make sure that you click subscribe so you don't miss next week's episode here on the One Step Better podcast. Thanks for listening to the One Step Better podcast. I'd really appreciate it if you would take some time to rate us 5 stars on your podcast player of choice, and make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you never miss out on another episode. Thanks, and have a great day.